Hey folks, thanks for tuning in today. So in today's video, we're going to be going over Ben Corday in our Tattoos Through History series, right? Ben Corday is a great transitional guy though, because he was born in British India in 1875, but then after becoming like a sailor and like a circus strongman, right, he starts tattooing and then goes over to San Francisco, starts tattooing there, creating flash sheets there, later settles in LA. And so while he was born over there, he comes across the pond and settles down in America, starts getting super famous for, well, I mean, he was like 6'8", so already he's like just hard to miss, but selling tattoo flash sheets through the mail. And so that's where we really start to see, mass produced kind of cool, I mean, mass produced, right, flash bought by other tattoo artists to put up in their shops and then tattooed from his references. And so that's kind of cool to see that sort of stuff happening. That's what he's sort of, more famous for as far as like changing the culture of tattooing. And yeah, start to see lots of cowgirls and stuff, right? He brings in like, geisha style things. Obviously, we keep the sea monster theme going. It's really cool to see this sort of stuff happening. And so we today are actually going to do this skull and dagger tattoo because why not? I think that's kind of fun, glory or death, I think is what it says there. We'll figure it out when we get to the iPad. Speaking of, I'm Clay, the techie tattooer. And let's just get to that iPad and start drawing because I'm not very good at remembering history stuff. And, I just think it's super fun. Come on, grab it, and move it up to the top. Right, to see, here is, one of the first original like battle royale versions, right, of the snake, the Japanese dragon, and the eagle. I love this eagle and how these color scheme is actually just black and red, where red is the only color here. It's just, yeah, I absolutely love it. I think these are amazing. This is just an amazing design. And you can kind of see, how we've got these simplified color palettes where I had a comment from a TikTok video of people asking, but wasn't blue around back in the day? And, it seems like absolutely it was. These are very, very early drawings with very early flash designs. We're talking early 1900s, and to have blue in the flags, blue in this woman's shirt, shows that yes, blue was an available color in early American traditional. You still get, mostly this green and red and yellow, right? I love this little guy here. He is absolutely amazing. Great little sea monster dragon thing with wings, and I think those are supposed to be flames coming out of his mouth. I'm not entirely sure, but again, you can see how we've got the brown, this orangish kind of color, right? The true red, and then these interesting like yellowy kind of goldy colors, right? In the claw talons there. Yeah, so again, it is still a very limited color palette. We're looking at like, maybe those 4-5 colors at best. And so that's why you get, a lot of American traditional staying with those super, super limited color palette sets because it is classic. It is what they had back then. You're not going to see bright pink and atomic green and a lot of these other colors that, are just so popular and super rad nowadays. We've got United States Navy. He did a lot of this kind of stuff with cowgirls and other things. I didn't grab any of the cowgirl photos just to show you right here, but he's got plenty of flash sheets with him. He's super famous for this one back piece that I showed you there where, she's the cowgirl riding the horse. And then, you've got these pinup style models. Yeah, just, and it really fun to look at this kind of stuff because we're seeing, again, these 5-leaved roses, as well as the angry face rose coming in, right, which is still used, to this very day. It's just, yeah, such cool stuff. Anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and get drawing this death or glory tattoo and just get straight to it, folks. So we're going to get rid of these. We're going to take this guy. We're going to zoom him up a whole bunch. And actually, again, I am going to flip this around and we are going to boop boop use this longer ways for our design here. Going to go ahead and drop the opacity way down, bring this up to our top layer, and then because we are still in this old school style, yeah, you know, I'm not going to retrace this at all. I am just going to go straight to tracing over it. I'm not going to draw a new mock-up of it. It just doesn't need it. It's such a cool design, and there's so few things I will actually end up changing that I'm not worried about that. So let's go ahead and just get straight to, but like I was saying, my monoline, and we are going to be using it at its thinnest setting here, right, all the way down at 1. Again, I use an 8.5 by 11 at 300 dpi. The size of your line is going to be dependent, or the size of the line the brush creates is dependent upon your dots per square inch, right? So if this is only at like 150 dpi, your brush is going to be twice as big as mine is here. So in order to get the exact same look, you're going to have the exact same settings on your canvas. We're there, we're here. All right, yep, let's just go ahead and start making choices. As always, I will draw all the way through this design here. So as we get this dagger going, I'm going to draw all the way through, probably change the way this dagger tip comes a little bit. So I'm holding it down, and then that gives me the ability to change things up a smidge there, right? Bring this around through there. You know, that's is that a little thin for me? No, that's good. That'll be all right. It's a nice fillet knife. We can make that happen. We can live with that. Then I'm going to go ahead and just draw a perfect circle here where we hold it down and then we use one finger to make that perfect circle happen. We'll make it roughly the exact same size. Grab it with our freehand tool and then move it into our perfect position. Now, because his is a little bit offset to the right, I'm going to scooch mine just a little bit further to the left to really make sure that this line from here to here and this distance from here to here is perfectly balanced. Well, you know, as perfect as I can get it, right, just by just eyeballing it. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of an extreme curve, hold that down to cheat. Little bit more of an extreme curve, hold that down to cheat. Yep, I like how those are coming out. And then we'll add that center line where I'm dividing it as evenly as I can and bringing this right on through, holding it down to cheat. Getting rid of my schmutz line here because I'm neurotic. Actually, we're going to bring this back ever so slightly because we know that we're going to want to do this. Hold it down, bring it in, hold it down, bring it in. And there we are. For the handle, I think I am going to change the fatness of this handle up just a little bit. Yep, and so what I'm doing is kind of coming from the flow of this dagger here, right? You're not going to see that. It is going to be removed, as it were. You know, it's gonna be covered, but I still want to make sure that that's nice and coming from a cool spot. No, we're gonna go the other way around with this. what? Am I just going to leave it just as fat as is? I think I am. I think it is going to be just as fat. And so here I'm choosing to have a slightly different, you notice, so this tucks right underneath there. Mine, I'm going to bring it back just a little bit, so it's got just a little bit of a gap here. Just because I think that's going to make it just a little bit more dynamic. Right, that's a little bit too big. I want to make these guys balanced, right? And so there we are. So that means this one's going to get a little bit bigger of a curve here. Maybe a little bit more curvaceous. Yeah, I like that. Maybe that's too close together. Yeah, it's a little bit too close together. So this one we are going to have to cheat a little bit this way. Give this guy a little bit more space to curve. There we are, looking much better there. And then for this one, I'm going to line this up with this curve here. So it follows that guy around. Do this, and then I'm going to give it something just a little bit extra by going thinner here to thicker there, right? Just a little bit. Not too bad. Not too different. Yeah, we'll go ahead and call that good. I will add that little line here. This little line here. We'll go ahead and continue his dots. No, we'll need more than that. There we are. And you know what? If we're going to do it on that, we ought to do it on this. There we go. So those match just a little bit more. Yep. I like how that turned out. Even though it's probably not necessary. And then hold it down with the finger. I am going to create a little circle that's going to let us know where our highlight is. Yep, our highlight will be there. And then from this, we're going to just shade black, whip shading out from this lightest point here. Okay, so that is the entirety of the dagger outline, which means we are going to move to a new layer. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this skull going on this new layer. Why not? And where do I want to start this skull? I'm going to start this skull in the brow here, where we're going to dip out, make a stronger brow there. And stay below this line. We want to stay below this little dip line here, right? Just like he did, right? These are really interesting design choices that you're going to want to make with your American traditional to make sure that your design stays nice and clean. Yep, that feels pretty good. That might be a little bit far back, but really his skull is super shallow. Do I want to keep it as shallow as his skull? That's... Do I want to keep it that shallow? Okay, so I'm gonna balance this just a little bit differently, turn mine just a little bit more. So what I'm doing here is kind of balancing this distance with this distance just a little bit more, just a little bit. So we have to remember too that while I'm tracing this, I'm not tracing it anymore because now my eye socket's just a little bit lower and all that kind of stuff. So really what we could do is take our design here. Where'd it go? It's this one. And we'll tilt it ever so slightly. Yep, to kind of get that to realign a little bit better. Then I like to put that ridge and this little guy here on my skulls. I'm gonna make that a little bit higher up so it matches. That's gonna be too close. So further apart, and then match that bump there. Make this eye a little bit shallower because of the faked perspective, but we do want it to be just as tall. Yep. Yep, bring that down just a little bit lower there. Change this shape just a little bit here. Make sure the distance from there to there is roughly the same. And then continue this cheek idea. It's a little bit too low. There we go. And then I am going to go ahead and see if I can make that make sense. You know what? That doesn't look too bad, actually. With the jaw. It's a little underbitey. There we are. That's better. There we go. A little less funky there. Okay. I'll put, I like to put a little thing in there, but that's a me personal thing. I like to do that. You do not have to do that at all. You can keep it much more closer to his American traditional style design. Nothing wrong with that. And then we're going to add a little pocket for the black we're going to sink there. Oh, wait, no, that's got to be the slice in his skull. Okay. So then I'm going to bring my slice up a little bit. Yep. No, I'm going to change the angle on that. I'm going to make it come through like this. And we're going to actually split the head here. There we go. Yep, changing it up just a smidge, right? Because we got to add our own flair to this. We can't just go straight up exactly what he's doing. I think I like how that skull's coming along. So then we'll just erase this line out right now preemptively. Okay, cool. Now we're going to take this guy and bring him back to where it was. Oh, and if you're rotating this and it's like rotating way too far, the further out you go, the smaller your movements can be, and so that can really help with dialing in a rotation. So that's the skull. We've got dagger, we've got skull. Let's move on to the flag. Flag. So the angle on this flag is making me a little bit sad because to me, this feels like this would come out here, right? And so what I'm going to do is change the angle ever so slightly to here so that way we can justify it going behind the skull there and disappearing. So that's why I'm making that slightly different choice. But at the same time, we are still going to go for the exact same two-loop flag like that. Hold it down. Make it just a little bit bigger there. Hold it down. So we're about like that. That's a little bit off center. Better. And then we'll add his two tassels. Yeah, so we got our two little tassels there. We'll go ahead and we're going to mock in the stripes with the black outline, even though, excuse me, even though we probably wouldn't put those in there like that. There we go, that's a little bit better. And then stars on this guy. Obviously, we're not going to get all the stars in there. And so on a different layer, All right. Yep, we'll call that good. Not as realistic as I wanted to go for it, but it never is. And that's my problem with American traditional. And drawing American traditional, I'm like, no, but it needs to do the thing. And stop. It doesn't need to do any of that. Calm down, big guy. And then I'm going to stick all this flag back onto one layer. Excuse me for being disgusting. And yeah, I'm just burping. I don't know what. I've been eating too many, way too many vitamins, man. They're just giving me an upset stomach. So, not that you guys care. All right, new layer, and we are going to go on to whatever these leafy things are, which are pretty much just going to be traced out exactly because they're awesome. And don't fix it if it ain't broke. We're gonna go ahead and go away, bug. Squish that down onto one layer, get all those guys playing nice together. We are now on to the banner. Okay. Let's see here. We're gonna have this banner. I don't like those old school banners, guys. Okay. I'm going to go ahead though, and so I don't get too confused about this Linework stuff. I'm going to move this over here off to the corner. And then I'm going to erase out the sorty bits. So I've got a nice clean work surface for the text. Which means sword here gets erased. All right, so that is our line work for this design, though. That's it right there. Except for, right, the text. So let's see here. E A. I'm going to back this up just a little bit. Actually, bring this a little bit in this way. Go. And then we're going to go tiny for the or. Back to basic big. Now the Y and the R got too tall. Yeah, so I'm just going to erase them outright. still feel like that R comes out a little tall for some reason. There we go. Then I'm going to move the or. All right, I think that is the line work for this tattoo, and now we move on to the shading. All right, we're going to go ahead and smush all of this onto one layer, go the layer below, create our new shading layer, and as always, click on this to make this the reference layer. Go over, grab my soft brush, airbrush, pen, brush, whatever. I mean, yeah, it's a brush, whatever. Okay, and automatic. Let's see. Yeah, that's not gonna work. We'll just drop that in there, drop this, drop that. Nope. I'm gonna turn that up a little bit. There we go, up to like 75% roughly. To get rid of that little line there. There we are. Good times. And then I'm shading towards the back of the blade so that the light part of the blade, or rather the sharp part of the blade, is the light part of the blade. Go. Whoops. There we go. Close that off. Get back to my shading layer and my soft brush. Go ahead and nope. Drop that in, drop that in. All right, oh, we'll drop black in there as well. Looking good. I will actually go ahead on the line work and add that to it. We're going to go for our freehand. Get these little shading nubbins in here. Shade them dark. Dark right up to the edge. And then have a little bit of lightness coming out there. Same kind of thing here where we're gonna, whoops, I'll go the other way. There we go. Dark as it tucks underneath, coming to light there. that good. Same thing over here. Dark as it tucks under. I'm gonna just add a little bit of light there at that end. Yep. There we are. Get some shading in this skull head. Well, I guess a head is a skull, huh? Or a skull is a head. Talk and draw at the same time, YouTube boy. Well, I do feel like some days I'm getting better at it. Some days I'm like, wow, really? That's what you said? Okay, good on you, dude. Be smarts. There we go there. We're going to do that same kind of thing, but we're going to leave a skin break. And then shade. Yep. Do a little bit. Let's see, where are we going to do a little bit? We'll do a little bit in the cheekbone here. Again, we're going to leave a little bit of a skin break. Okay, do the same kind of thing back here with a little bit of a skin break. There we are. Let's see, actually, I'm gonna... Whoa, now. Oh! No! How did I get onto that layer? Oh, right. Oh, man. Look at all that. No! And you wonder why I do this for no good reason. It's stuff like that, right? Where I end up just making a mess up on this layer, and then now I've got to go through and redo all this. This is why you'll see me just like go ahead and duplicate my line work layer because of issues like that. Right? Because that would have been so much better. Yeah. Ugh. Boo. All right. Fast forward. There we go. All right, I think I am back to where I started. Good times, folks, good times. Okay, so now that I'm back to where we started, we'll go ahead and continue on. Whoops. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put some darkness on the back sides of these, just because I think it looks cool. I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure, he doesn't have this in his. There we are. Oh, right, yes, this little thing in here, I forgot that. Go. Gonna drop that in pure black. Okay, I think that is all of the blue. Oh, no, no. There we go. That should be all of the pure black, folks. Now, on a layer below that, that's when we're going to start dropping in the colors here. Going to go ahead and just drop in these flag colors. There we are. Go ahead and give them right, just a little bit. There we are. Start a new layer. We'll go ahead and drop in our blue. Do that same kind of thing with this guy here. There we are. Then we've got our greens we're going to drop in. And I'm just going to go ahead and use this funky distressed green, mud color, whatever. Newer old school moss green. And then we'll stick a little bit of yellow in this. Yep. And then we want grays for the arrowheads. Even though he doesn't have yellows in these, I'm going to add yellow in this, this, and this. And then actually go back to this black layer, and we are going to add, just the tiniest bit to these guys. There we go. And then why not not as we're up here. There we go. I am going to, again, because we're kind of sticking with this, I'm going to stick yellow in there. Yep. Stick yellow in that. Oh, you know what? I'll even give it a little bit. There we go. And you know what? Just to kind of keep that cohesive. And then he put red in his banner. So I'm going to have to think about, whoops, that. We're going to put a natural paper texture. No, we're not going to put the natural paper texture in the banner so much. What we're going to do is shading in the banner. You know what? There's another way we can do this too. We can go ahead and just drop this in here. Right, drop these in. And then we can erase out we can do it like that, and then just erase out that part. So either one of those techniques is going to work just fine. It's just kind of whatever you want to do. Obviously, it looked like that technique took way longer, so probably not that one if you want expedience. But again, you know, all of these things are just for, like, you know, if you want a specific style. Because everybody has their own style for how they want to do it, and maybe you like that better. So we're just showing options here, folks. Okay. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better, so we're going to drop that in there. Whoops. Is that on that red layer? No, it's not. It's just in front of that red layer. Okay, fine. There we go. Just because I like the way that looks a little bit better. All right, folks, if I'm not going to color in the skull head, that is our design here. Let's see what this looks like with a background on it before I make any decisions. Part of me thinks it's gonna look better with like a slightly light yellowish skull head thing going on here, where we take something like this. Yep, and I'm on a new layer. Drop that in, drop that in. Part of me thinks that might look better. Right, I think I like that better. Just give it a little bit more oomph to it. There we go. There we go. Yep. I like that way better. But then again, that's just me. You guys can do whatever you want to finish this piece out. But yeah, that is our American traditional Ben Corday drawing. Well, I mean, not that it wasn't American traditional, but our reimagination of his amazing stuff here. Let's go ahead and bring that up all the way. Go ahead and do what I always do. Automatically select this good stuff. Then we'll get to our fat nozzle over in our spray paints. Fat nozzle. Start lightening things up. Right. And there we are, folks. Reimagining of an awesome classic Ben Corday piece. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you so much for following this series. I absolutely love it. Love working with you guys. Thank you for just being such an engaged, amazing audience. It really does help me stay motivated to keep these pieces coming. But, you know, if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. If you haven't hit the notification bell, do that, because next in the series, we are going to go over Amund Deitzel, something like that. Yeah, some guy from another country. Again, this is why I don't do the history, because I cannot remember who we are. But yeah, he became the Milwaukee master, something or other like that. So he settled out here in America. And yeah, thanks for watching, folks. Catch you next time.